Hey, David Burton, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk a little bit about awards. This is the Missouri Association of Community Economic Development Extension Professionals, and my name's Misty Ritter. And I've known you, David, for I've been with Extension for over 5 years. And
Has it been? Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Time
well, it's
flies.
it's it's been six. But the reason why I reached out to you to join us today in MASEP's Professional Development Lunch and Learn about the subject of awards is, I find this area of awards, either nominating others or nominating myself for that matter, is being kind of a gap in my workflow. And you have a really great visible track record of gaining recognition for some of the work that you've done with Extension. You've been with Extension for quite a while,
Yeah,
and you have a
20,
really great
almost
track.
23 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to let you know, David, that the first award I ever received with Extension was one that you nominated me as part of a team award for back in 2020. And so I don't know if you remember that, but it
Oh
was part
man.
of part of our pandemic virtual, like out of the gate group
Oh
effort.
yeah. The
Yeah,
21 indispensable qualities of a leader.
right. And
That whole
I
thing.
have,
Wow.
yeah,
Thanks for bringing that
I
up. I'd kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, I have that certificate in my office. It hangs in my office, and I've actually had guests in my office ask me about it. So I'm really proud of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it really makes me reflect on the fact that I often miss opportunities for whatever reason to think about recognizing my colleagues and my own work. And so I wanted to ask you today to spend just a couple minutes talking about how you work the action aspects of award nominations into your workflow, and what do you do, and how do you do such a good job of being so prolific and successful with it?
Wow, that's a lot of territory to cover there, Misty. You know, um, it is neat to be able to see your coworkers get recognition. Um, and it's also valuable to each of us if you're pursuing advancement opportunities at all. It's important for that, obviously. But I would say winning an award is more than just the trophy or the title. It's really about gaining credibility and amplifying your achievements. And then it can also work for you in other ways too. And I think it helps amplify the reputation of MU Extension as well if you're applying for other awards around the country with other national groups. So I'm excited to hear that you remember that. And I think Extension makes it extremely easy to nominate other people for awards or to apply for awards. It seems to have just gotten easier. I'm not sure there's as many categories, but the process has gotten easier. So anyway, I had given this some advanced thought and thought we'd maybe spend 10 minutes or so covering three basic steps, at least the way that I see them, which is step one is kind of identifying the right awards. Step two is some tips for crafting that award-winning nomination. And then step three is really repurposing the effort that you put in for greater impact. Not just thinking of it as I'm only doing an award application, but there are other ways you can use that material. So that was kind of my process in thinking through this, if that's appropriate. And, um, there will be a link in the video description here to a blog post that really uses those same steps and provides a little more information if you want to learn more. You can see that blog. But let's just start with that first one about identifying the right awards. You got to know which ones to pursue and which ones to apply for. And sometimes that takes a little research if you're going to do something beyond just our MU Extension family awards. I'd say first you start with the field of work that you're in. Um, Early on in my career, I was more in the communication section of Extension. It was still under community development, but those were kind of the circles I ran in. And so I had to research that particular field. What were the national organizations? Where could I find those opportunities. What industry publications were there and did they have awards? What professional associations? So certainly there's professional associations that have national awards for us in extension, and most employees around the country would have that. So that's kind of your first area to look at. Start within your field. And I'd say next, step two is network with your peers. Just like this video, ask your peers, where have you applied for awards? Where have you found success with awards? And then look at those same types of opportunities. I think that gives you a little bit of a leg up, and recommendations from colleagues are always a great thing to pursue and learn from the wisdom of others, especially when it comes to applying for awards or maybe awards they have won. And then consider local awards. Uh, I think in my area, there's been chambers of commerce. Uh, there's been a regional newspaper award process that was going on for a while. There's other community organizations that maybe you are involved with locally. Sometimes those have uh, awards as well, and it's appropriate to apply for those. That can help you get some practice. I think the whole process of award application is good, to just think through what you have done to gather that criteria. So I think even that exercise is good. Um, and if you can win and apply for local awards, again, that helps increase your credibility locally. So consider that. And one of the things that trips me up, and so I'm just giving advice because I have missed this myself, is track those deadlines. Sometimes there have been times I found an award and thought, I should really try for that one, and then I didn't track it on my calendar or make a note on it, and then lo and behold, the next year it comes around and I've missed the deadline yet again. So if you find one that you're interested in, track that deadline so you can be sure and hit it. Then step two is kind of that process of crafting that nomination. Um, Once you found that relevant award, you want the application to be compelling. So, number one, you got to understand the criteria. I will admit, I have been three-fourths of the way through an application process before, and then went back and read the criteria closer and realized I really wasn't even eligible. So please don't follow my bad example with that. Read the criteria, make sure it fits with what you're doing, make sure you're following the guidelines correctly, and um, that's an important step. I know of one organization, because I know a person that's on the committee uh, for this group, and uh, they throw out a lot of applications because they don't follow the guidelines and the criteria. And so probably a lot of organizations do it that way. So be sure you follow those guidelines. And then really, the whole application process is a chance to highlight your achievements. Focus on your measurable results. Uh, Use data, use testimonies or real life examples. Lots of times applications will have a section of like, final narrative, or tell us tell us something that we didn't ask about, or um, some sort of area where you can do a narrative about the importance of this work. And real life case studies or testimonies in that, I think, are really powerful to include. Um, it's important to have data too. X number of people changed their behaviors because of this program or something, but testimonies really help drive that case home, especially in narrative. So, and that's really kind of part of telling the story. Awards recognize not just results, but also the journey. So explain the challenges and the growth. Um, I just completed an award application back in January, um, and this organization asked for a written application and then a video that they wanted. And in the video, their question was, tell us about something with this that did not go as planned, and the lessons you learned from it. And they emphasized they were looking for something that was wrong. And so it was beyond just telling the sunshine story about how wonderful things were. And I think sometimes there's a place for that, even in other applications. Say, this is, what we would like to improve upon, or this is a lesson learned. I think that's a powerful part of telling your story. Um, One of the criteria I've seen is, about using professional language, keeping it clear and concise, and jargon free. We love our jargon. And you got to assume the person reading the application is not up on all the acronyms and the jargon. And so write it for understanding and keeping it at like an eighth grade reading level. Uh, keep Just because it's easier to understand, keeping your sentences short, doing bullet points where appropriate. And then I think the last step under this crafting the winning award nomination is proofreading thoroughly. Uh, Golly, I write things, stream of consciousness usually. I proofread. Sometimes I'll proofread again, and I'll tell you, golly, how many times have I sent something and then catch a couple more typos? I think once you've written it several times, you just read it the way it's supposed to be, and you don't see them. So whatever tool you have, if you have Grammarly or the education version of that, or just um, something within Word, using whatever tools you have, as well as the eyes of somebody else, perhaps. Be sure you proofread it because that's a easy mistake that can really trip up your application. And then a strong nomination is really more than just a list of accomplishments. It is that compelling narrative, and it showcases why you deserve recognition. And when you're approaching it that way, I think that also leads into this step three, which is repurposing your effort for greater impact, so that you're not just thinking, well, I'm going to spend all day today writing an award nomination. And maybe I will, or maybe I won't get it. And is it worth my time to do that all day long? But if you can think, you're not just writing for an award nomination, you're writing something that increases your credibility, uh, is good for MU Extension's reputation, may help with your future advancement, and it's something you can use in peers. It's something you can use in your reporting. It's probably something you can use in your annual report. You might be able to do a blog or a media release, all sorts of other ways to use that material. So it has purpose beyond just the application. And I think I may have already hit upon the things that had come to my mind. I'll just cover them again here about that repurposing. Internal reporting, very important for however your organization does that. An extension, we're using peers now, and I believe every quarter we have to do a narrative. So an award application would be a great way to do your narrative. Um, Marketing and promotion. Um, you might be able to use your award application to put together a press release or um, some other material that highlight the work that has taken place. Maybe that even gives you some content to pitch to somebody who's doing a podcast that's relevant. So you can be on that uh, podcast and talk about this work that you've done that you're proud of and think it merits further discussion. And I will say that early on, somebody approached me about doing a podcast, and I looked at the technology and I thought, man, this is going to be a lot of work and a regular thing, and I really don't need another regular thing. I wonder if I could have more success by getting on other people's podcast. And I think I've been on 30, 40 different podcasts around the country. Do a search for what the work you're doing on, see who's doing a podcast in that area. Tell them about the good work you've done, which would be something maybe you've pulled together in your award, and pitch yourself as a guest on the podcast. It's a good way to further your audience and reach new people. So you can use your application in that way. I think lots of times if you've done a good narrative, it lends itself well to a blog post or maybe an article or something in annual reports or the county newsletter. It has a purpose that way. And then future applications. If you go to the work of writing one, keep it. Keep it on file. I have electronic and paper versions going back 23 years. Do not throw it away. You're going to have a chance to repeat sometimes for an award, or pull from some of these as examples of things to use. So hang on to it at least for historical reference. And then I think doing awards is part of your professional branding. If you're on LinkedIn and you have a professional brand, not again an award can help with that professional brand. But even if you don't get the award, using the material you've written for the award uh, in various posts can help establish and build your professional brand as well. And that's good for your career. It's good for EMU extension as well. So that's kind of my main steps. I'll just kind of wrap it up. It's isn't just about the recognition. There is great value in reflecting on your achievements and leveraging those things in other ways. So identify the right awards, craft those compelling applications, and repurpose your effort for other benefits. At least that's the way I see it, and how you can turn that single award nomination into really a long-term asset for your career and for your work.
David, can you take a few seconds and reflect on being involved in uh, nominating others for awards and being involved in a team award? Like, how do you approach when you're trying to work with or communicate or nominate a team situation, or work with somebody who a colleague down the road that you recognize as needing some awards? How does that fit into this, and how does that kind of fit into your framework?
Some of that may even be a part of being around for a longer period of time. When you're looking at advancement and trying to um, do the NTT process, which is specific to extension or other things, um, you see how those awards are of greater value to you. Maybe when you've been down that road a ways, there's a point where you start seeing how it has value for others. Um, at least that was the case for me, to see that. Um, and what I have tried to do is in my region look at our reaching out reports and different things that um, coworkers do, uh, and pull out a few that I think are like extraordinary, and keep those in my stack to try and do one or two of those a year for our internal awards, right? For other people. And I know there are other people that have done that as well. And I know I love seeing someone that I've nominated get an award like that. That is great for all of us. I know extension councils love that in Greene County. I always try and nominate someone every year out of Greene County because our extension council loves it when a specialist gets an award. I mean, that is a crowing session right there when that is announced. And so it's valuable for all those audiences and to make the case that we are doing good work. And team awards, um, if you've been on a team and you've functioned well and you've done something uh, unique, I think that's important. Those team awards, someone has to take the task in hand. Someone has to start the ball rolling. Some of those allow for several people to weigh in on them. Um, but I'm thinking specifically of the one that you mentioned, Misty. We were still using my extension reporting system then, and so you could pull a report and have comments from everybody that helped teach the class, and have some data from that class that really helped speed that application along. I guess that'll be the case with peers too. I'm just brand new to it, so I don't. Uh, I'll have to learn that as we go. But that's a way to get other team members involved by looking at what they've reported, or asking some of them to submit some ideas on how to answer a question. There's no harm in that at all. But team awards are a great way to get recognition for several different coworkers. And again, we all we all benefit from that experience and that recognition. We really do.
Any last minute advice for somebody who is kind of new to a field, getting their feet wet with their work and trying to understand how they fit into awards?
Yeah, it can take a little while to get your legs under you, doesn't it? To understand what you're doing and then to have something you think this is worthy of nomination. I I'd say things that are unique are worthy of nomination. Things that have maybe not been tried before or that you're doing in a different way. Like, for example, the team award you mentioned, that we did that all through Zoom during the pandemic. Everybody taught one of the 21 sessions. So that was unique for a lot of different reasons. So maybe you're taking a existing curriculum, but you're doing it with a new audience or doing it in a new way. I think that can make an award worthy. And then sometimes it's because of great longevity of a program for sticking with it and having a um, a number of years to look at data from. I think both of those are compelling reasons to do an award and do something that you're focus on something you've done or are doing that you're passionate about. I mean, I would not I would not be the best person to write a award application about a program teaching people how to can vegetables. Uh, I you know that doesn't get me excited particularly for me. But there are other areas where I do have a passion. So focus on those things that are passionate to you. And again, because it's not just the award, it's how are you going to use this material even afterwards to build your brand, to market your class, to be able to elevate your level of professionalism in the industry, in the profession, and in the community as well. So think about in those ways that may make some of what you're doing bubble to the top as something that is worthy of an award because it's worthy of being shared to a wider audience in the community.
Well, David, I want to thank you for taking the time to to think about this and share your successes
Mm.
and tips about the skills that you've developed on regarding applying for awards with MASEP with our Lunch and Learn, and also demonstrating some of the skills as far as having this going to be repurposed in your blog and available for us and others in the future. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate the interest and the opportunity. It was good to reflect back on some of this.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.